Product claims. There are 4 types of claims. FDA classifies product claims in 4 categories. I won't go into details on those right now, but nutrient, relative, structure, function claims, and health claims. A lot of companies make the mistake of, if they produce, for example, a dietary supplement, and here it's regulated, perhaps considered a drug, and you may have certain claims on your product here in Vietnam that it cures cancer or lowers blood pressure, some other element. FDA is very strict about health claims. So you need to be careful because, in fact, what you might consider here to be a drug, FDA may also consider it to be a drug, but an unapproved new drug. So it would be a drug that FDA would not consider to have been approved, and you're not likely going to want to go through the approval process. Often, manufacturers of dietary supplements encounter problems on this claim, on the claim issues. Now, if you know that your label is wrong, you have a problem with your label, you have an order, let's say it's a first order, or you've had a problem in the past and you're worried about your labeling, you are permitted to use stickers to cover up or to add information onto your label. So if you have a very small shipment, you feel that your labeling is correct, but you don't, for example, have the weights in ounces, you only have it in grams, you are allowed to add a sticker that would indicate also the ounces. Some common misconceptions. Companies often will say, oh, I'm approved by FDA. I've been licensed by FDA. Doesn't exist. FDA does not approve companies. FDA does not approve products, except for drug-related products. Okay, so for actual prescription drugs, there is an approval process. But for food and beverages and dietary supplements, there is no approval. There are prohibited substances. A lot of times companies will say, well, can I use this ingredient? Does FDA allow this ingredient? There is a list of permitted ingredients called the GRAS list, and there's also a list of substances that are prohibited. So if you're not sure if your ingredient is allowed, those domains here are a good resource to go and search to determine how FDA might view your ingredient. The use of the register, the R, for a trademark. In order to use an R symbol on your products in the U.S., your registration, your product, will need to be actually registered with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. So, in other words, if you are selling your product here in Vietnam right now, you have the R symbol because maybe you've registered your mark here, and you're exporting it to the U.S., but you don't have a U.S. trademark, you need to remove that R symbol. You can instead replace it with the TM, or trademark symbol. That symbol is used for marks that are not yet registered with the USPTO, but it serves to put the public on notice of the claim of your ownership. If you are interested in registering a mark, I can tell you it's not a terribly complicated process. You can do it directly with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. It typically takes about 18 months and will cost somewhere around $500 in government fees. If you hire a company to help you, you could expect to pay $2,000 or $3,000 for them to help you register a trademark. So if your exports to the U.S. are growing, if you have a good brand name, and you really do want to try and gain some protection, I would encourage you to register your brand. Some other common misconceptions. Barcodes are actually not required by FDA. Now, most companies use them because their buyers want to have a barcode. They want traceability. They want to be able to have it for inventory control. You can purchase, and I apologize, I have the first website up there, gs1.org. That's a good one. The second one is if you're in Jordan in the Middle East, which is where I was last week. But GS1 is where you can purchase barcodes for your products. Lot numbers, not regulated by FDA. You're not actually required under FDA regulations to have a lot number. However, your buyer, again, is likely going to want a lot number, and you would be wise to have a lot number on your product in the event that you need to ever recall any product. Expiration dates are actually not required by FDA. Those, again, are typically customer-driven, and I would encourage you to have expiration dates on your products. FDA doesn't require them because their logic is an expiration date doesn't necessarily indicate the quality of the product inside. You could have a product with an expiration date for 2 years from now, and in a month it arrives in the US, and it has gone through extreme temperature changes, and the integrity of the product has been significantly diminished. And a consumer will look and say, well, this is good for another 24 months, when in fact the product is already spoiled. So FDA doesn't regulate expiration dates or require them. Keep in mind that labeling doesn't stop with your label. FDA uses the word labeling to mean all of your marketing material. They will look at websites. They will actually go on the internet and look at a company's website and see, for example, if you have a dietary supplement you produce and they see you're making a claim on your website about the product, they will issue a warning letter to you saying, we've reviewed your website and we feel that the claims you're making are false and it's an unapproved new drug, etc., etc. So labeling is more than just your label. It might be what you're saying about the product in your brochure, it might be what you're saying on your website, and of course what's actually attached to the product. So with regards to labeling, you want to be sure your labels are formatted correctly, they have the right information, they're truthful, obviously. I recommend that you not copy others or rely on your importer to help you. Requirements do change very quickly. Here's an example, and I think we have some perhaps in the brochure. We offer a service where we will review your labeling. You send us your before artwork. We'll tell you everything that's wrong with it. We'll give you a report back that explains why it's wrong based on the Code of Federal Regulation, and then we'll send you back actually a corrected file, a graphic file of the artwork of a corrected label.